Hi, I'm Danny Lacey, and this is the Diary of an Entrepreneur, episode 4, recruitment. We're talking about hiring slow and firing fast. So, when to hire? Start by outsourcing would be my first bit of advice. Look at the tasks that you've got week in, week out, and look at those tasks that you could be outsourcing to websites like People Per Hour, Fiverr, or freelancers. Go online. If you're looking for a graphic designer, type in freelance graphic designers in Leeds, London, Scotland, wherever you are, and approach people, get the best rates, negotiate the best rates, and start by outsourcing those little tasks. Because the instinct, the temptation is to run straight in there and hire staff right from the word go when you have little things that need outsourcing or are taking up too much of your time. So instead of thinking staff straight away, look at what you could outsource that would be cheaper than hiring staff in the early days. And always negotiate on rates as well. Find 3 people of a certain skill set and get them kind of all competing to win that work from you. And also kind of dangle that carrot of longevity, building relationship, doing more work than with them in the future. So start by outsourcing would be my first bit of advice in that respect. But then the minute you can afford it, hire somebody. Okay, get somebody in under the roof as a member of staff as soon as you possibly can. And the minute you get to that phase, you need to be planning. Make sure that you're aware of your cash flow. You've got at least 3 months projected cash flow, so you know what's coming in. You know you can afford the salary. And if possible, have 3 months worth of their salary in the bank as cash ready to go to cover you for that 3-month period. And I say 3 months because that's kind of a typical probationary period. So you've got a kind of 3-month period to work out whether or not it fits for you in the business. And at the end of the 3 months, you and the employee can kind of go separate ways at the end of it. So you've got that kind of little bit of a threshold. Who to hire is kind of the next thing to think about. And the way I do it is through my to-do list. So my advice would be your to-do list is going to be your biggest recruitment tool. So make sure you're jotting down what you would do in a typical week. Every time you do a task, make sure you jot it down in a notebook or online or an app somewhere. At the end of the week, look back at all the tasks that you've been doing and then list them in order of what was taking the most time, most of your time. And then that's the kind of, and if it's not something that you should be doing, so I mean, obviously as a head of a company, you should be doing sales and marketing, networking, but if it's admin and invoicing and accounts and design and other stuff that's kind of really low down your priority list as the head of the company, that's the kind of thing that you should be hiring for. So look at your to-do list, check those tasks that you do every week, and look at the areas that you're spending the most time that are not the income generating tasks that you need to be doing to grow the business. Okay, so that's where you need to be hiring. And then figure out, can you outsource those tasks or do you need somebody in-house? And when you are hiring somebody, hire somebody who's multi-skilled as well, who can do maybe 2 or 3 items that are on that list, which is going to save you money and is going to improve productivity and is going to knock a block of time out of your weekly schedule that will free that up for you to do other stuff. So when asking that question of who to hire, look at your to-do list first and then kind of figure out if there's somebody you could hire to take those tasks that you're doing and wasting time on. For example, an accountant, a personal assistant, a designer, a marketing coordinator or an assistant marketing person, a salesperson, etc., etc., etc. So look at your to-do list first. That is going to help you determine who to hire. Where to recruit. Recruitment is going to take up a huge amount of your time during the early phases of a business. You will eventually get to a stage where you may be hiring a recruitment person, a recruitment agency. But in the early days, that's going to cost you money. So it's easier to kind of do it yourself. Yes, it's time consuming and defeats the whole object, I guess. But in the early days, it's a good place to start with you going out there and looking to find those people, recruiting yourself. And the way you do this is, first, you build relationships with local colleges and universities. So you're looking at postgrads, potential prospects, students who are going to be out in the big wide world eventually, who are skilled, who you can train up and get in at a cheap price as well. Because obviously, postgrads and stuff, they're going to come in at minimum wage, which means that your salary is going to be lower. I'd advise going against, your first member of staff being a very senior, experienced individual, because it's going to cost you a fortune, and you don't really want that in the early days. In the early days, you have to kind of, you've got to basically live by your means. So I'd advise going to colleges and universities, building a relationship. Colleges and universities that have those students that cover those tasks that you need covering, the people that you want to hire. It's pointless going and trying to find a graphic designer in an accountancy college. So think about that. But build those relationships. Who do you need to speak to, and get talking to them right away. Put adverts on recruitment websites. There are a load of websites out there that are free. Indeed.co.uk is a really good example of that. Write that job description. If you're not sure how to write a job description, Google job descriptions. If you're after a marketing person, go to Indeed.co.uk and type in marketing person leads and just copy. Take copy other people's job descriptions, tweak them a little bit, and so don't look and stare at a blank page forevermore. Just find the job descriptions online, rip them off, change them around a little bit to more in line with what you're looking for, and that'll get you started quickly. So get them on the recruitment websites. And LinkedIn, for me, LinkedIn is going to be your biggest, most powerful tool. It's a great place to headhunt. There are thousands and millions of people on LinkedIn, and they're already made CVs. I like headhunting. I like looking around and constantly recruiting, constantly looking at the talent that's out there. I kind of imagine myself as a football manager or a football scout. I'm always out there trying to see what talent's around that would fit within my company, and then getting in touch with them and building those relationships. So headhunting is great. Checking out those CVs online and dropping them an email, getting people in for chats. The other thing as well is when you're getting all these CVs through, the minute you start putting the job descriptions on these websites and on LinkedIn, etc., you're going to get potentially bombarded with emails and CVs. Don't just bin them and delete them. Store them away. Have them filed away in a folder system on your hard drive with their CVs. Have the folders for different industries and skills. Because you never know when that's going to come in handy for you in the future. As you're growing a business, you're constantly going to be recruiting. Recruitment's going to become one of the biggest, most important thing that you do when you're growing your business, especially in the early days when you're the recruiter doing the recruiting. So keep that information, keep that data together, and keep it locked away, and keep it handy for future reference. And also start recruiting before you actually need to recruit anybody. Just because you put an advert on an Indeed.com or on LinkedIn or wherever, it doesn't mean you have to hire anybody. Get those CVs coming in early, see what's out there, see what talent's out there, see where the weak spots and strengths are, and it'll give you early indications as to how easy it's going to be to fill that position. So start recruiting now would be my advice. Salary, what to pay them. Start entry level in the early days. If it's staff member number 1, go minimum wage to start with. It's just going to help with your cash flow. Google HMRC minimum wage, by the way, so you understand what the minimum wage is. Scale as well in line with the growth of the business. You don't want to have that first person in on minimum wage for the duration of the company, or for years forever and a day. What you don't want to do is hire somebody at minimum wage, then get staff member number 2 and 3 at slightly higher wage, and so on and so forth, and then leave that person who was the first in the door on the minimum wage for years on end. So keep reviewing, keep upscaling the wages and salaries as the company grows, because you will want to keep your talent keen to work for you, and they also have ambitions of buying houses, families, holidays, etc., etc., and they can't do that forevermore on minimum wage. So make sure you're upscaling salaries in line with the growth of the company. Otherwise, you'll spend 2 or 3 years nurturing that talent, and they'll move on if you're not keeping up with the wages. HR, you have responsibilities as an employer. Know what those responsibilities are. Employment law is massively, massively important. Do right by your employees, and if you're not sure what that means, hire a HR company. You can outsource this. We use a company, we pay them £130 a month, and they look after all of our HR issues within the business. And so make sure you're doing the right thing by your employees, and also protect your business. Okay, having an HR company looking after the legal side of your business is hugely advantageous. And employment, so hiring an HR company as well, you get familiar with employment contracts, holidays, sick pay, the staff handbook, medical questionnaires, and so much more. Know your responsibilities and stick with them. And hire slow, fire fast. So, add many filter processes during the interviewing phase. Instead of just interviewing the first person and hiring them on the spot, make sure you've got like 2 or 3 phases and processes in place before you hire somebody. Really kind of take your time over that. Don't rush into it, and don't feel pressured into hiring anybody. Make sure you have a filter process in place and stick to it. Get rid of dead wood fast, okay? If there's somebody in your business that you've hired that isn't pulling the weight, they're not delivering on their KPIs, they're slacking off, they're clock watching, and they're just not doing their job properly, it's going to slow you and your business down. So you have to get rid of people quickly. Now, obviously, you have a responsibility and there's the employment law to look at. So check with your HR company first. But if people aren't pulling their weight, you've given them plenty of warning and plenty of notice, you put them under review and they're still not performing, you need to get rid, and you need to get rid quick. Know your responsibilities legally, of course, and that comes back to getting a HR company in, but then fire fast. Don't dilly-dally around. You might like the person, there might be a friendship there, but if professionally in business, if they're not pulling their weight, they're slowing your business down, you need to get rid, move on, and find new talent that will come in and help you grow and move the company forward. If this has been useful to you, do share it with others, and please do feel free to leave a comment below over at facebook.com/Danny Lacey Business. Now remember, failing every day is a massive part of your journey. Thanks for watching.